Morning, sports fans. It's 50 days post-op. Doesn't time fly? That, for the mathematicians out there, is 7 weeks and 1 day. I think on me one from last week I was saying about how I'd reached a little bit of a glass ceiling, that the easy gains had stopped, and I was having to try to work at further improvements or breakthroughs. I've done all right this week, and then also this morning as well, with them. Well, we've had sort of three. I would be kicking the arse out of it to say breakthroughs, but one's a breakthrough, two improvements. Number one, with the Turkish get-up, I was able to do one. I'm often told to do one. I could perform Turkish get-up, body weight either side, although there was two bits which were all over the show. The rest of it was pretty good. Was sort of acceptable if you were looking at an unimpaired individual trying to carry it out in the gym. Those sticking points were transferring from the high hip to bringing the knee next to the supporting hand. That's obviously a big one, because you're first of all removing the foot as a point of stability, and then taking it from a place you can't see, and then introducing it as another point, as a dependent point of stability in another place you can't see, albeit by close to a hand. And as far as proprioception and physical drills go, your head usually does, or almost always has, a pretty damn good idea of where the hands are in time and space. There's some good unarmed combat uses for that. But in this one, wasn't so bad moving me right knee, and now I'm pretty good at that. I only just get a hint of a wobble. Taking up and placing it is fine. It's just a hint of a wobble when I try to transfer to half kneeling. When it's with the left knee, before it was all over the show and it was a blank spot and I had to rush it. Now I can slow it down a bit, and I get it placed okay. So that's definitely coming on. Just on that, it's always a pointer if somebody can't stabilize correctly or doesn't own the technique of a movement or an exercise. If it has to speed up or rush from one position to the next, it's usually a pointer that they can't stabilize in that position. You'll often find them holding their breath as well. If you can breathe in a position, you generally own it, and if you're rushing it, it's because you can't stabilize. If you took it slowly, gravity would win the battle. So I'm getting there on the Turkish get-up with that. The other one was the reverse lunge when you're coming down from the Turkish get-up. I was worse when going back with my right leg. Although the deficits on the left-hand side were the most apparent, so that might sound counterintuitive. However, as ever, the key is stability. So if you're stepping back with your right leg, then your stability needs to come from the left leg and hip. So that's why I'm more unstable when stepping back with the right leg. But I'm getting there on both. So it's pleasing that, and it's also poor enough that I'm quite enthused about practicing it and gaining in there, because if I can get stability in those positions of movements, it'll have quite a high crossover. The other improvement, maybe a hint of a breakthrough, was a position that's called the bow. It's like the half halfway position when you're doing a single leg deadlift, be it with a barbell or with just one arm, be it a dumbbell or a kettlebell. I'm not going to try and describe the position here. I don't think I'd do it any justice. You either know the position or you don't. If you don't, get on the net and learn about it, because it's one you should be doing. Crux being the lower back curve. And I can execute it both sides. I generally need a bit of a bar handy for me to grab should there be any wobbles, but I'd be a bit of a divvy if I did it without one. Now, like, there's just no point in being unsafe. And then the last one, which is a bit of a breakthrough, which was this morning, was a little bit of skipping. I surprised and impressed myself with that. Like, I wasn't ready for that one. Well, clearly I was ready, but in my head I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, so how good's that? That is going to be my route back to running. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it, but for those latecomers, if I had, I used to run quite a lot. Was never particularly good, certainly within my peer group at least, or rather was never particularly fast. Although I could run long distances. Done 100 mile a few times. Did the marathon des Sables, and a few other ones to mention. Anyway, I would generally be at the back, but I would always complete them. And then 5 or 6 years ago, I started developing calf injuries whenever I ran, and we're talking like within 200 yards, a calf which was previously fine would just spasm out on me, like. And so essentially, last 5 or 6 years, no running at all. And so I was seeing, this brain deficit, where I've lost all my movement patterns, as being an opportunity. Because whilst I would have lost all the good and useful movement patterns, I would hopefully have lost all the bad ones as well. And so I've got an opportunity to rebuild just on clean movement patterns, and I have no one to blame other than myself. And what I was going to be using as one of my tools to try to train the running pattern, as well as getting all of the primitive and supporting patterns, crawling, squatting, single leg stance, and then walking. The next tool, because I've got all of those potentially at an acceptable level, I would say is reasonable to say, was going to be skipping. Hopefully high knee skipping, well, that's what I'm going to go for. And so I've started my first foot along that path. So we'll see. That'll be the ultimate validation of the quality of this rehab plan I come up with, is whether it gets me running or not. If it doesn't, then I'm full of shit, and you can largely ignore me. All right. Oh yeah, did I tell you? I'm on a cruise. How good's that? Can you see out there? Can you see the sea? Or is that? Yeah. So for the next fortnight, I'm hopefully just gonna train, eat, sleep, repeat, and then probably get nagged in between that, like, because the missus is out here after all. So yeah, ciao for now. Might do a daily one if I impress myself with me skipping again. Ta-da.